Good day, everyone. For this lesson, which is our last lesson in purposive communication, we are going to discuss communication for employment. Let us begin. There are two technical documents that we're going to discuss for this lesson for job opportunities, and these are application letters and resumes. Basically, we're going to learn how to write these two, and then afterwards, we are also going to discuss how to answer in job interviews. Let's begin with an application letter. An application letter is also known as a cover letter. So before you submit your resume, you have to provide a cover letter first, or what we call again application letter. It provides an additional information on your skills and experiences, and this is written in an essay format, like it's a letter. The first basis of the employer in considering an interview with you. So it's like if the resume is a bulleted format of who you are and what makes you qualified for a specific job, then the application letter or the cover letter is like the essay format of your resume. And it also shows how knowledgeable you are of the company that you are applying to and how equipped you are with the skills that they are looking for. Take time and be careful in writing your application letter. Make it look good. Physically, you have to make it look good. Choose your words. Okay, make sure that all information are clear and easy to read. It doesn't have to be lengthy. Professionally, we are writing for busy people. Like these people have other jobs to do. And so we have to be mindful of the length of everything that we submit to them, because honestly, they won't be spending so much time reading everything that you're going to put in your application letter, nor in your resume. So just select the most important ones. Explain the reasons for your interests in the specific organization and identify your most relevant skills or experiences. Again, your most relevant skills or experiences. If you have some which really do not relate to the specific job that you are applying for, then you don't really have to include that in your application letter nor in your resume. Only those that would be directly related or somehow related to the job that you're applying for. Also state your reasons. It's very important that you explain why you want the job, why you're interested in the job, and why you want the job. Let the employer know what position you are applying for. It has to be clear. You cannot just say, I want to be part of your company. You have to say specifically what roles you want to take or what role you are interested in. State the reasons that the employer should select you for an interview. So you have to market yourself. That's the thing with applying for a job. You are marketing yourself here. And so it's very important that you know exactly why the employer should hire you. It's a very basic question, even in job interviews, right? They ask you, why should we hire you? You have to know that answer. And even without an interview, they must be interested to get to know you and ask you for an interview through your application letter. That's how important it is. When writing an application letter, you should include the following. First, for the first paragraph, why are you writing? Mention the job you are applying for and where you found the listing. So first of all, you have to explain in the first paragraph your intentions for writing. And that is because, obviously, you want to get a job. Now, you have to mention specifically the job that you're applying for and also where you found that they are hiring. Second, in the middle paragraph or paragraphs, depends upon you. Again, just don't make it too long, but it must be interesting enough, all right? What have you to offer the employer? What is it in you that makes you different from the other applicants? Mention why your skills and your experiences are a good fit for the job. So you have to mention, like you have, again, to market yourself. You have to make them realize how important you are for the company. You have to make them see that they need you, that you're one of a kind, that they have to get you. What are your skill set? What are your experiences? Now, if you are a fresh graduate, of course, you don't have any work experiences yet, you may mention your experiences in school, like what organizations you participated in, what were the roles that you took, for as long as those are related to the job, again, that you are applying for. And then for the last paragraph, you have to say thank you, of course, to the hiring manager for considering you and note how you will follow up. Of course, it's also very important to say thank you because they spent their precious time reading your application letter. That's very important as well. Now, when writing an application letter, remember these. First, before writing an application, find out as much as you can about the job. Sometimes we think that the job is something that we are already familiar with, but culture, remember from our last discussion, the corporate culture may differ from one place to another. And so it's very important that you are completely familiar with, if not at least somehow familiar with how things go in the company that you're applying for, specifically for the job that you're applying for. Make a draft plan first with what you want to put in your application. All right, so that's the draft will help you put out your words easily and in a more organized way. It's very much the same with writing essays or academic papers, wherein we have to make our outline first. So that our thoughts are clear and organized. Third, always check your spelling, please, and watch your grammar. Sometimes these HR personnel, whenever they see, say, an application letter or a resume with a grammatical mistake or a typographical error or a spelling mistake, it's like an automatic turn off for them. So be careful. You have to put your best foot forward here. That's the truth. Now, if you feel like you are not that good when it comes to grammar, say, or English or spelling, or if you just want to double check it, then get someone to proofread it for mistakes before you send your application letter, because it usually happens. It's very common. Now, for the format of our application letter, there are a variety of formats out there, but this is the format that we're going to follow for the purpose of our discussion. All right. So the first part is called your contact information. Here you have to include your name, your address, the city, state, zip code. Yes, you have to include those, especially if you're going to apply to an international company, your phone number, and your email address. Now, if you're applying for a job, please attend to your phone. Check your emails, because sometimes people who are applying say they're not the type of people to constantly check their emails. It may cause you problems. All right, so you have to always check your phones if there are calls or messages, or your emails, and be sure that the email address that you put here is the email address that you're going to use for your job opportunities. Next part is the date. All right, so you have to put the date and then the employer contact information if you have it. All right, so if you have the name of the HR, then you may include that person's name and then his or her title or position, the company. Now, if you don't have the name and the title, that's okay. That's perfectly fine and normal as well. So you may also put here just the name of the company that you're applying for, then the address, of course, the city, state, and the zip code. Afterwards, we have the salutation. By the way, you don't have to write this one, the word salutation, all right? This is just what we call it, okay? Dear Mr./Miss, and then the last name, if you have the name. Now, if in case you don't have the name, then you may just say sir or ma'am, sir/ma'am, all right? And then we have the body of the application letter. After the body, you have to put your complimentary close, which is sincerely. Others would put sincerely yours, or respectfully. You may use any of those, all right? And then your name and signature. So that's the format. How about a resume? Now that we're done with our application letter, what do we put in our resumes? A resume is a written compilation of your education, work experience, credentials, and accomplishments, and is used to apply for jobs, of course. It is a document showcasing yourself to the employer, which would help them understand why they should hire you in the job. As I've mentioned a while ago, the application letter is like the essay format of the resume. So the resume is the bulleted format. Like, it's a list of everything that qualifies you for the job, of everything that makes you different from all the other applicants. Focus on these four when assessing yourself. First, you have to explain or show your skills, and then your accomplishments, your values, and your experiences. Keep in mind the following before you write your resume. Remember this: employers will spend perhaps 15 to 20 seconds, that's actually kind of long, looking at your resume. And that's not a lot of time to make an impression, right? So make every moment count. They are busy people. There are lots of applicants. They won't be reading your resume from start to finish. They will only be scanning your resume. And so it's very important to include only the most important ones. As I often say, the maximum number of pages that you may use in making a resume is one. In a single page, you have to be able to include everything that you need to. Because again, these people are busy. They will not spend time flipping pages just to see if someone is qualified for an interview or not. So make sure that that 15 to 20 seconds or less is enough to get the attention of your employer. Now, what are the contents of a resume? We have first the heading. For the heading, you simply put your name, your address, your phone number, and email address. It's very important to put the contact information at the beginning. All right, so that if they're interested to get to know you and ask you for an interview, if they see that you are qualified for the next phase of the hiring process, then they may easily find your contact information. Again, as I have mentioned, make sure that the phone number that you put here and the email address that you put here are those that you are going to use for your job opportunities. Next is your objective. The objective should effectively shape and guide the rest of the resume. So the objective must serve as the springboard or like the guide for the entire resume. It must concisely state what kind of work you are pursuing. So when you state your objective, you have to state specifically the job that you want to get. Focus on what you bring to the position. Like, what would be your contribution to the company? You have to explain that briefly in your objective. The objective may be a single sentence, all right? It doesn't have to be long. Now, if you want an internship, a summer position, or full-time position, you may also put that or explain that or mention that in your objective. Next part is the education. Here you list your college degrees in reverse chronological order. What do we mean by that? The most recent first. For example, your college degree and then your high school. But oftentimes we just put up to college. Okay, so just your college degree. Now, if you have your master's degree, then you may state your master's degree and then your college degree. Now, the name and location of the institution and the date you completed the degree. If you're still studying at the present, write expected month and then year. For your expected graduation. All right. So, for example, you're still taking your master's. You're expecting that you would finish it, say, by next year around May. So you may include expected May 2024, for example. In addition, you might also include information such as the following: study abroad experiences, if you have; undergraduate research, of course, you have those, so you may also include those; relevant independent studies; and career-related coursework outside the standard curriculum for your major, if you have some. Like if you're a working student and your job at the moment, or even in the past, is somehow related to the job that you're applying for, then you may include those. Next part is honors and awards. Now, this is important. You may also include the several honors and awards you have received. These are included as a different section in your resume. Anticipate that your audience will not understand abbreviations since it is not known to them, so provide concise explanations if necessary. Like for certain awards with abbreviations, maybe it's better to include the meanings of those abbreviations because they're not like the employers may not be familiar with them, especially if they do not know the institution where you come from. So it's important that you provide the necessary information. Next is experiences. Include the paid and unpaid experiences that help illustrate your qualifications for the position you seek. For each experience, you may include the job title, the name and the location of the employer, of course. So they're pretty much the same, right? The position and then the name and location of the employer, and then the dates of your employment or volunteer work. So if it has ended, then you have to put like from what year to what year. You may also include the month if you want to. And then key responsibilities and accomplishments. Like what specifically were your responsibilities or the role that you played in that particular experience? And what were your accomplishments as you were in that particular experience? Next is activities. Here you include your clubs, professional organizations, and similar activities that help reflect your skills, like your leadership skills, your organization skills, your commitment to your profession, or to civic activities, and so on. This is very important, all right? So that's why it's also important that you as students join in clubs or in professional organizations, if possible. There are activities that would help reflect your other skills. Like if you are a member of the school paper, then you may include that if it is again related to the job that you're applying for, or if you are a member of the school leaders, then that would manifest your leadership skills. So these are very important, all right? So right now, the crystal students, you gather as much as you can so that you may have enough skill set that you may put in your resume. Remember, do not write member of. All right, you don't have to put that. Just list the organization. Now, you may not put member of, but if you held a specific position, like if you were an officer, then you may put, say, vice president of this or chairman of this and this. All right, so that you may put. But if you were just a member, you don't really have to mention that anymore. And do note any offices you held, committees you were on, and so on. So it's also important to mention those. And if the nature of the organization or activity is not clear, please explain them. Next part is your skills. Of course, your major skills are also included in your resume. Include things like computer skills, language skills, laboratory skills, other skills relevant to the position, like leadership skills, communication skills, all right, stuff like those. So you may include those. You don't really have to explain these, all right? You just have to list them down. That would be enough, all right? But for you claiming that you have these skills would make your employers think, all right, this person is confident enough to include these skills in his or her list of skills. So most likely he or she really, truly possesses these skills, and that would qualify, which would qualify him or her for the job that he or she is applying for. Next is certifications. Depending on your circumstances, you may include information such as teacher certification, engineering licensing, or related professional certifications. Now, if you are a fresh graduate and you don't have any certifications yet, then don't include this part. That's perfectly okay. But if you have any, then please include them. They make you more qualified. They make you stand out. And if you are looking for a job, you may also look for opportunities wherein you can get certifications in whichever area or field you would need for a specific job or for your career goals. And then we have the references. This is also very important, right? This is the list of references, and you have to have it ready when you go on your interviews. Be sure to check with each person to make sure they feel comfortable providing a recommendation for you. So what do we mean by references? These are the people of higher position than you, or people who are of the same position as you, but it would be better if you're going to get someone of higher position than you. And these people are those that you're going to put as your references because they are the ones that the company you're applying for may contact to check if all the information you included in your resume and application letter is correct or not. So make sure that you select these people carefully, all right? Because they may either make you or break you. You have to also inform them ahead of time that you're going to put them in your references. Do not put anyone in your references without informing them first. Because at any point in time, if your employer starts contacting your references, they may be surprised and they may not know what to say. But if you give them a heads up and they agreed to it, at any time when someone calls them and asks about who you are and your personality and your work ethics, then they're prepared to answer those questions, and that's going to help you get the job a lot more. So again, inform them ahead of time. Also, just to give or pay respect to these people. Because as I have suggested, it would be better to get people of higher position than you. Say, if you are a fresh grad, then you may ask your professors or even your dean to be part of this. If you are already working right now, then you may ask your immediate supervisors. You may also put these people, all right, in your references. When gathering references, avoid family members, please. And look instead for people who can speak suitably as an employee. People who can talk about your skills or your qualities, your responsibility, your organization, your leadership. and so on. Carefully select these people. Now, how do we organize our resumes? Okay, organizational strategies. We have first, chronological. This strategy makes you list down your experiences in reverse chronological order. Again, when we say reverse chronological, we start with the most recent going to the past. Its focus is on the date, not on the skills. The second one is called functional. Separate your experiences into categories based on their relevance to the position you're applying for. Put the most relevant category first and put unrelated experience in separate sections. Most likely just don't include them at all. Because again, you have to put everything in a single page. Okay? No matter how many accomplishments you have, make sure that you include them in a single page. That's the most effective way of making a resume. So again, this is functional. That is again separating your experiences into categories based on their relevance to the position that you are applying for. These are options, all right? So you have to choose whether you're going to use the chronological strategy or you're going to use the functional strategy or you're going to use the skill strategy. Skills is the focus here is on the skills that you have that relate to the position. Listing them, usually broken down into categories as well before your experience. So if in the second one you're looking for the functionality, that's your basis for the arrangement of your categories. Here, you're looking for your skills. Okay? This format is particularly used if you do not have much work-related experience, right? Because if you don't have much, like if you're fresh grad, then most likely only all that you can offer are your skills that you are certain that you possess. And so this is a more effective way of writing a resume. It highlights what you have accomplished. This format is perfect for new graduates who do not have a long work history. Fourth strategy is combination. So here, as the name applies, you combine elements from each format to present the information in a way that makes it easy for the reader to connect who you are and what you have done to what you can do for them. Use this style to emphasize your capabilities while presenting a job history. So here, you combine the strategies that we've mentioned based on how you think would best represent you and showcase who you are and market you to your employers. Keep these in mind. Do not choose a format until you draft your text. Okay, so you have to first make a draft. Like in writing an application letter or in writing anything, you have to first make a draft before you make any decisions. Second is do not try to make your information fit into someone else's template. You have to create your own. You may use a template to get started, but do not rely on it. Now, using Canva, there are lots of templates in writing resumes, and you may use those, all right? But you don't really have to copy everything in those templates. You may personalize it based on your needs and your personalities and your skill set. Be willing to change formats based on the position you're applying for. That's also a thing, right? Sometimes people would make a single resume and send them to a variety of companies without really personalizing each based on the position that they're applying for or the company that they're applying for. You have to be willing to change your formats, all right? Like your objective may change because the objective, as we've discussed, mentions the job, specifically the job that you're applying for, right? So you have to be willing to change those. Also, the order that works best for one position may not work as well for another. And fourth, always consider your audience, like the company itself. What kind of person would these company look for? Say, if you're applying for a job that is more of on the creative side, then most likely have to transform your resume into something more creative. I'm not saying you have to put colors in it too much. It still needs to be formal, but it's very important that you address your audience, you adjust whatever it is that you're presenting, even your resumes and your application letters to your audience. If you're applying for a company that is more on the technical side, then most likely you may use technical words or the formatting, like the visual of your resume is more technical looking. You have to really address the audience first. Okay, be mindful of your audience. Now, let us proceed with the next part, and this is job interview. Of course, if your resume and your application letter is good enough, then you would be asked for a job interview. Now, oftentimes these days, these job interviews happen online, but there are also a number of cases wherein you would be asked to be there face to face for a face to face interview. In job interviews, candidates or applicants are interviewed by one person or a group. Yes, it's possible that you're there sitting by yourself and there are, say, 3 people or 5 people asking questions to you. Or it may also happen that there's a single person interviewing a number of applicants. It really depends upon the company. Now, here, you will be asked a set of questions to determine whether you are qualified for the position, a good fit with the company's culture, and that if you can answer questions with confidence. Now, that's the key word here, confidence. Going to job interviews, you have to have confidence. If you don't have it, you have to fake it. All right, you have to make people think that you have this confidence. Now, I'm not saying arrogance. There's a very thin line between confidence and arrogance. Confidence is believing in yourself. You know what you're capable of doing. Arrogance is comparing yourself with other people and saying, I'm the best. I'm better than everyone else. So there's that difference, all right? I'm not saying you have to be arrogant. You just have to be confident. You know, the silent confidence that just glows out of you and that it's impossible for people not to notice. This person is capable of doing things because this person knows her worth. This person can perform and can contribute to our company because he or she believes in herself and that he or she knows specifically what he or she can do. Applicants should prepare for the interview by doing research on the company, knowing the typical questions asked, and practicing how to respond to such questions. Now, I know this is nerve-wracking, like it takes a lot of guts to answer questions, especially in job interviews, but it's something that you have to go through. And so it's something that you have to prepare for. And that's specifically why we're talking about it right now. Now, first, you have to research on the company because most likely they will be asking you, what do you know about our company? That's one of the most basic questions, honestly. And if you don't know any answers to that, then that's a major turnoff. It's like, okay, this person did not do his or her research. He or she doesn't know what she's applying for. So it may be a risk to hire him or her. Right? So you have to do your research about the company, know something about it, if you can know everything that you can know about it. And then practice those typical questions, like basic information about yourself, tell me about yourself, those kinds of questions, and you practice. Okay? Applicants should arrive early. Yes, this is a must. It shows your work ethics. Present yourself well, including the way you dress. If you are a female, then you put on makeup. Not too much, but you have to put on makeup because it shows that you care about the way you look and the way you present yourself, and that you also respect and care for the people that you are going to converse with. Make eye contact with the interviewer or interviewers, but not like all the time, all right? Just a sincere eye contact. Just don't avoid eye contact. And answer questions clearly. Do not beat around the bush. Be confident, but answer the question straight to the point. Now, these are the types of interviews that may happen. We have first the traditional one-on-one interview, wherein the candidate is interviewed by one person. So it's a one-to-one interview. There's just one person interviewing the interviewee. The second is the panel interview, wherein the candidate is interviewed by a group or a panel. As I mentioned a while ago, you're there sitting by yourself, and then there's a panel, like about 3 to 5 people interviewing you. Next is the group interview, wherein the candidate is interviewed along with fellow candidates. So it's not just you have other candidates with you being interviewed. And lastly, we have the stress interview, wherein the candidate is asked a series of difficult and even intimidating questions. You have to be ready for this, only to see how you handle stress. That's why it's called a stress interview. Okay, so be ready for these. Now, what do we do? Before the interview, first, we do our research. Gather information about the company you're applying to so you can adjust your responses to fit that company. It would always depend upon the audience. Whether it's in writing or in speaking, even in job interviews, you have to do your research and get to know your audience. Know the typical questions asked, like the getting to know you questions. Of course, they'd ask you, state something about yourself. You have to know specifically what you're going to say. All right? You cannot go too personal. It cannot be the boring stuff. You have to give them something that would entice them and make them more interested in you as per the job or the position that you are applying for. Second, questions about your qualifications. Be ready to answer those. They may ask you to explain some stuff or those skills that you've mentioned in your resume, so be ready to explain those. Next is forward looking questions. So these are like the what ifs. What if this happens? What would you do? You have to also be ready to answer those kinds of questions. We have, of course, tough questions like the stress questions, wherein they would ask you questions that are almost impossible to answer, but you really have to get through those questions. Just be ready. And questions about money as well. Eventually, they will be asking you, well, not at all times, all right? There are some employers who don't ask this directly, but there are also those who ask these kinds of questions directly, like what is the salary range that you are expecting from our company? So you have to know specifically, just don't say that it depends upon their discretion. Okay, don't say that because most likely they will give you the minimum that they can offer. You have to have a specific salary range in your mind, your target salary range, if they ask you about it. If they don't, then most likely they already have a specific fixed salary for that specific job. Now, to protect yourself, you also have to know what questions are illegal. Employers cannot ask about the following. First, your relationship status and your disabilities, how much alcohol you drink, whether you have ever been arrested, your religious preference, it's not related, whether or not you have children, your birth control practices, and your living arrangements. All of these things are illegal to ask. So if they ever ask you any of these, you have the rights to not answer them. But if you feel comfortable to, then you may do so if you're comfortable enough to share. But again, you don't really have to. Like, you're not required to answer these personal questions. Now, this is one thing that a lot of applicants forget. That is to prepare your own questions. At the end of interviews, oftentimes, employers ask the applicants if they have any questions in mind. Be ready for those. All right. Now, the questions may differ based on the company that you're applying for. So you have to also prepare for each. All right. Let us now proceed with during the interview. What do we do during the interview? First, you have to arrive early and present yourself well. Your punctuality is very important. And presenting yourself well includes your gestures, your attire, and even your hair, your face, everything, just everything. You have to present yourself well, so prepare for it. Dress in accordance to the job or the position that you are applying for. Second, you have to smile. Of course, you have to be friendly. You have to show them that it would be easy to work with you. Make frequent eye contact, as I've mentioned, not constantly staring, like not removing your eye contact, because that's kind of creepy, so don't do that. But make frequent eye contact whenever necessary. And control your body movements. Now, whenever we are nervous, we tend to release our tension in one body part. Like others would fidget, like they would move their legs a lot, or sometimes others would move their hands too much, or they would say if they're holding something, then they would constantly, like if you're holding a ball pen, then they would constantly play with the pen. So be mindful of those, all right, those mannerisms or those tension releases through the body, because they manifest that you are nervous. Just be mindful of how you move your body. Okay, sit still and be confident. Third rather, be clear. Be clear with your answers, answer the questions directly, and be yourself. And then fourth, wait for the interviewer to officially signal the end of the interview. You're not in any position to end the interview. Let that person interviewing you to give you the signal, like say thanks to you for your time and say that they would contact you, or that would be it for our discussion for communication for employment. Now, for our final project or output in purposive communication, your project is as follows. Suppose that you are now a graduate of your chosen course and that you are looking for a job. Design your own resume based on the lesson we have discussed. Write an application letter as well to your target employer, and the deadline of submission is on December 20 via Google Drive. All right, so again, what are you going to do? You are going to write your own resume and your own application letter, and the submission is on December 20 online via Google Drive. Thank you very much and God bless everyone.